and today I'm in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm here to visit Carla Reuchert for an interview about the Law of One and the raw material which she wrote and channeled in the beginning of the 80s. So come on in. Okay.
Hey Anna, come on in.
Hello, Carla. How nice.
It's so good to see you. Come on in. This is,
Well, we would very much like to see the books, because
well, come right over
these
here to
are
our work area.
so interesting things.
This is the Law of One, and we're missing book one right now because it's out of print at the publisher. But they're working on that. And
How many have they sold?
Oh, probably over 50,000 by now. We'd be a bestseller if you counted all the years through which. And then this is my newest one, Living the Law of One.
We'd like to hear more about that one later. But
Okay, and this is 101, The Choice, and the other two in the series will be 102, The Outer Work, and 103, The Inner Work. And then
they haven't come yet. So that's in the series of three books.
They're still
Yes, in the heart and mind.
in the heart and mind. And this is one I wrote in 2001, A Wanderer's Handbook. And the way that worked was that I just took all my email for the last umpteen years and analyzed the questions that people asked over and over again. And then I separated them, all the subjects, into a flow. And I wrote a little essay about each question, answering that question. So you can use it. It's really a sort of a manual or a handbook. You can like look up something that you're interested in or use
What is a wanderer?
Well, a wanderer is someone that was concerned about the plight of planet Earth at the end of this age, and they wanted to help the harvest. So a lot of people who come from elsewhere have incarnated in waves on
You mean
planet
other
Earth.
planets?
From other planets, right. And have incarnated in waves here on planet Earth with the object of lightening the consciousness of planet Earth.
Well, something happened to this book.
Then this is a Book of Days. It's channelings from the Holy Spirit.
That is a beautiful book.
Well, thank you. It's the fruit of my work in the 90s on becoming a better channel, and I kept practicing my tuning and challenging for many, many, many days right after morning offering. And we took the best 366 leap year of those little readings from the Holy Spirit, and we made a book out of them. I think it's a real sweet. This is the first nonfiction book that Don Elkins and I wrote. It still bears reading, I think, because he was so much ahead of his time.
Secrets of the UFO.
Secrets of the UFO.
Yes.
And let's see, what else do we have here? This is the first fiction that Don and I ever wrote, probably the last two, and it's called The Crucifixion of Esmeralda Sweetwater. It was an amazing book because we wrote it in 1968 and 69, and it began coming true in 1974. And this, we're very happy with. This is a book that just came out this month. It's Light Lines, the first 25 years, and Light Lines is our newsletter, so it's the best of our channeling, picked out by Jim DeWitt, my husband right here, who's been with the research group since 1980. Let's see, is there anything else I could show you?
There's one there.
We have the channeling handbook.
Yes.
Okay, this
very interesting.
channeling handbook was written after I finished doing the work that shows up in a Book of Days here. And I just wrote down what I knew about channeling. I don't teach people to channel in it, but I help people that are already channeling to hopefully channel better.
Okay, Carla. I would like you to tell me, what is actually the Law of One?
The Law of One is very simple and yet very profound. The Law of One simply states that you are everything, every emotion, every aspect of the personality that you can think of, every tree, every shrub, every piece of ground, the wind, everything in the universe is one interrelated thing. And this concept of a unified creation, has now caught the fancy of our scientists, especially our physicists, who deal with things like string theory, which says exactly the same thing, that every moment sends out a string that connects ultimately with every other moment and every other string in the universe. So whether you're talking about metaphysically and saying the ground of consciousness is one thing and we're all a part of it, or the Creator is all one thing and we are all sparks of the Creator, or if you're talking about it in terms of science, it comes to the same thing. The universe is one thing. It is unified. And we are little apprentice creators. We are sub-logoi, where the planets and the suns are logoi, or thoughts, and sub-logoi, and then the original thought is that thought of the Creator that expresses its true nature, which is unconditional love. So we are all one thing, and that one thing is love. The first distortion of this unified creation is free will. We have free will, and it was free will the Creator used to choose to know itself better. And so it created all that there is in this creation, and is observing with great interest as each of us, sparks of the Creator, gather experience and offer it as we pass into larger life to the Creator as the gift of our incarnation, so that the Creator is constantly learning things he did not know about himself, because of the fact that we, with our free will, are choosing experiences and then choosing how we wish to respond to them. The manifestation of the Creator is the third distortion after free will and love, or the logos, is light. And light is what is used to create all of the illusions, all of the energy fields that are you and me and this floor and the chair I'm sitting in and the neighborhood in which we live, and so forth and so on, until all the energy fields are subsumed into the infinite Creator. So that's a tidy little summation of the beginnings of the Law of One. The implications of it are very extensive, because if you see that you are a part of the Creator and your job is to become aware of who you are and what you're doing here, then you are able to use all of these distortions or laws of the Law of One in order to figure out who you are and figure out what you're doing here, and gain experiences knowing yourself to be an ethical being that has the opportunity to choose whether to be of service to self or of service to others, which are the two basic choices which the Law of One material suggests we have, so that you can graduate in service to self, or you can graduate in service to others. But of course, most of the people that I know, most of the people on planet Earth, I think, are service to others oriented and really want to help each other and love each other.
Well, we have to hold there, because this is a very central point, and I think you still need to explain to us the difference between service to self and service to others. What do you really mean?
All right. Service to self is an energy that is attractive, contractive, is pulling from the creation to the self for the benefit of the self, without regard to the benefit of others. So service to others, on the other hand, is radiant and expansive and inclusive, and sees all of those entities in the creation besides the self as other selves, and sees those other selves as opportunities to be of service to others. So if you had a peanut butter sandwich and you decided that you were going to eat it, a service to self entity would sit down on the curbstone, regardless of how many homeless people were around, and he would eat his sandwich. A service to others entity would break the sandwich in half and give half to someone else, or if he were a Christ-like entity, he would just give the sandwich away. So really, it comes down to numbers in terms of reporting on what the law of one entity Ra said. Ra said that basically if you were of service to others, if you had it in your mind to be of service to others over 50% of the time, 51% or higher, you were service to others oriented, and that is the minimum requirement for graduation in the positive polarity, so that you can go on to a positive fourth density polarity planet and learn all kinds of new lessons. The rules for being of graduation caliber and service to self are quite harsh. You have to be thinking of yourself to the exclusion of all others 95% of the time. So the 5% service to others and less is graduation caliber service to self entity. 51% up to 100% service to others is graduation caliber positive polarity. In between the 5% and the 51% is a sinkhole of indifference, as the Ra group called it, which means that many of us here, we vary. We do something that's of service to others, then we do something that's of service to self. We never really get a good thing going. We're just vacillating back and forth and not developing any power. So in order to develop power, we have to keep choosing to be of service to others until we get over that 51% mark, and then just keep on doing that. And that is why people do not have to know about the law of one or any spiritual principle whatsoever in order to graduate. All they have to do is be of service to others. And how many people do you know, just thinking back to the people in your life, that are far more than 51% service to others, that are quite innocent of any intellectual seeking? They just do the right thing because it feels good to them, because they're good people, and they will graduate just fine. Does that explain it for you?
Oh, thank you. But I know, and people who know you know, that you won't claim to have come up with this yourself. You are a channeler, so you channel this information.
Yes. When I was
raw material.
Yeah. Well, it's a long story. It has to start way before there. When I was a freshman in college, I discovered that a professor across the street in the School of Engineering at the University of Louisville, Don Elkins, was starting a silent meditation group. Now, he was doing it as a scientific experiment. He wanted to find out if he could create extraterrestrial communications in a group. He had found some information in material from a Detroit group called Man, Consciousness, and Understanding, which was developed by Walt Rogers, and he learned about it from a fellow named Hal Price, who had moved from Detroit to Louisville. Don got this brown notebook information and read how you created a contactee group without the fuss and bother of an actual close encounter of the third kind, and thought, now this is worth trying. And so he gathered together 12 of his favorite students of physics at speed school, and I was the girlfriend of one of those students and heard about it, and I said, well, ask Professor Elkins if I can join the group as well, and he said sure. So these 12 gentlemen and I sat in silent meditation each Sunday night, just year-round for years. And as a matter of fact, we're still doing that, except we've switched it to Saturday night. But weekly, we sit in meditation, and it's silent except for when we choose to channel. Well, the original 12 gentlemen all learned to channel, but I had never come into it for that reason. I didn't particularly want to channel. It didn't appeal to me. So I just laid back. I was a lurker. But 12 years later, of course, down the road, all of these students had graduated, had moved away, and we ran out of channels. So Don said, well, in order for this experiment to go on, in order for me to keep collecting material, I need you to learn to channel. And so as a kindness to him, and also because of the fact that I worked for him and wanted to be a good worker, I said, okay. I was reluctant, but I did it. And it took me a while. I mean, my first channeled message was we are Hatan and we are having trouble with this instrument. And it went on from there. And after about 2 months, I got to be competent as a beginning channel. And I began noticing ways in which I could possibly make the process a better one. And so that led to a very intensive study of mine from about 1976 to about 1986 or 87, where I was trying to learn the principles of how you really do a good job of it. Channeling is very easy to do. It's very difficult to do well. So, you know, my hope was that I would begin at one point doing it well, and I'm still hoping for that. But as I learned about how you prepare for channeling, I began to refuse to take specific questions or fear-based questions, because the contact with the Confederation of Planets and Angels in the service of the Infinite Creator is a spiritually based contact totally. It has nothing to do with Earth. There are no inner guides involved. Inner guides have a perfect right to get into your stuff and say, well, you should be doing this, or you should pick this job over that job, or in your past life you were this and that. The Confederation won't do that. And if you ask them to do that, they will refuse. Now, people that have ego involved will try to channel anyway, and they'll just detune and they'll get a different contact. But I didn't want a different contact. I wanted the Confederation contacts that I liked so well. So I began to refine what questions I would accept as the beginning of a channeling session. And then I worked and worked on tuning myself up, because I felt that the way this worked was I was like a radio or a musical instrument. You could use either of those analogies. If you're a radio, then you're tuning to the highest and best station that you can get on that radio. If you think of yourself as a musical instrument, then you're wanting to put yourself in tune with the vibration of the Infinite Creator that's the highest and best that you can sing. And however you can think of that connection, you tune yourself up before you ask for a contact, and then you ask for a contact that is compatible with your tuning. And I always ask for the highest and best contact I can carry in a conscious and stable manner of the consciousness of Jesus the Christ, which is unconditional love. And for many, many years now, I've gotten the same source, Kuo. But where the law of one came in, where the contact with Ra came in, was that in 1980, after I'd been studying channeling for some time and trying to get myself to be a purer and more refined channel, I was channeling, working with an advanced student one day, and Don was also sitting in the circle. And Ra came in, and the first time Ra came in, I was quite conscious, so it's very reassuring to me at this late day that I was able to challenge Ra, not once but 3 times, in the name of Jesus the Christ. And Ra had no trouble saying that Jesus is Lord, no trouble at all. And I repeat that 3 times because I figure, well, I might be off a little bit on my concentration once, maybe twice, but hardly 3 times. By the 3rd time, I'm really in the zone. So I do repeat the challenge, and Rob met the challenge just fine. So I let go, and what happened was very unusual, unique, in fact, in my experience. I went to sleep. That's the way it felt. And I continued channeling in that state. I guess you'd say it was a trance state. Don called it a tuned telepathic trance state. The scientist, you know, has to get it right. But anyway, always after that, the Ra group explained in that very first session how to, he gave Don and Jim McCarty, who is the 3rd member of our research group, a little ritual about the law of one, and they would walk a circle around where I was lying. And as they walked the circle and did their little ritual, I would go to sleep or go into trance. And so Don had a conversation with the Ra group that lasted almost 4 years. And 106 times he and Ra conversed. Don would ask the questions, and Ra would provide the answers. And I think probably these 4 volumes of the Law of One are the gift of our work, or the fruit of our work, that is most well known. Unfortunately, it's often considered quite dense and quite difficult to read. Not by everybody. Some people are so tuned to the Law of One that they could have a second-grade education and they'd still get it. But other people are struggling intellectually to get it. So some of the information in the Law of One is quite dense and resembles German philosophy in the fact that they create words. For instance, we are seen by those of the Ra group as mind, body, spirit complexes. Now, why would they not say person? Well, because they're trying to say how they see a person. A person is a mind, a body, and a spirit in a complex that unites all 3 of them into one energy field. And this is how the mind works, this is how the body works, this is how the spirit works, this is how they work together. So just that one new word, mind, body, spirit complex instead of person, gives you a great insight into the material.
Are you Christian, Carla?
I am a mystical Christian. My path to Jesus was unusual in that when I was a little girl, a toddler, 2 and 3 years old, I would go to a magic forest when I was supposed to be napping. I was never a good napper. But I would go to this magic forest and I could talk to the trees and talk to the animals, and Jesus was there. And Jesus would never say a word to me. He would sit beside me and hold my hand. And he would look into my eyes. And I would know what love was. And I loved Jesus, and I wanted to be an instrument of love. So this, as a toddler, I was already set on my path as far as being of service as a devotee of Jesus. And nobody ever had to tell me about Jesus Christ. Now, of course, I never could connect with the dogma of the Christian religion. I just love Jesus. So if somebody asked me about the virgin birth, or did he really die and rise again, I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. I know this man and his eyes of love, and that's all I need to know. So I am a mystical Christian, and I have a very firm rule of life that is Christian. I go to church on Sunday and sing in the choir, and it's very fulfilling to me to do these things. But the people whom I am here to serve are usually not Christians at all, or if they are Christians, they're lapped Christians because they haven't been able to get past the dogma. So what the Confederation channeling is a really long and clear collection of discussions of philosophy. A philosophy, specifically a cosmology and a metaphysic, that shows you how the universe works and where things like Christianity can fit into it. So there's no conflict between the Law of One and Christianity, or the Law of One and Buddhism, or Hinduism, or
so
any
of
the world religions.
You would not say that they are Christian. It's a Christian contact.
I would not say that it's a Christian contact, although they did pass the challenge by saying that Jesus is Lord. But I think what they were responding to was the fact that unconditional love, the Christhood of Jesus, is Lord, is the heart of it all.
There's another famous channeled book which is called The Course in Miracles.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see that compared to your own material? Do you see that it's more or less the same source, or?
No, I wouldn't. It has a different vibration to it, but many of the concepts, the core concepts of A Course in Miracles, are very equal to, congruent with concepts of the Law of One. However, it has somewhat of a tendency, depending upon what center you go to learn more about A Course in Miracles, of becoming a little bit cultish. And so people are sort of carrying around their Course in Miracles book and spouting it off to people and trying to bring people into the barn of what they believe, where I have never felt the need to do that at all, and know that if the Law of One material or Confederation material in general is useful to someone, they will find it, and it will find them. So I've never been aggressive or a proselytizer in any way. And I think that that is helpful to some people who don't want to be pressured, don't want to be pushed, don't want to have to believe in this or that. They just want to know how things work. And I think that's really the difference there.
So I have noticed that you are very sensitive, that you are not promoting any cult attitudes or anything like that.
Yes, I think that that's one of the greatest mistakes that a group of channels can make, is to attempt to create some kind of organization that will last and that will flourish, and you know, we need this and we need that. It's a temptation always to go for donations and try to get your members all in a line and fit in one box, but it doesn't really serve the seeker. And really, the heart of my personal mission is to serve seekers. And so I have to look very carefully at the influences that I allow in this group. And I think that if there is a cult of personality that starts up, or if somebody tries to make a Bible out of the books of the Law of One, anything like that, it's going to limit and narrow the ability of this resource to serve the seeker. So I want it just to be out there as free as possible to engage the seeker where he is.
The way I see you, from studying the books and from knowing you a little bit, is that you are quite intellectual also.
Well, I think that's probably true.
You read books all the time.
I do, but I have to confess that the books that I read are stories, romances, science fiction, potboilers, whodunits, you know. So I'm not a serious scholar.
But it was Don who got all his answered, all his questions answered.
Well, Don was the questioner during this contact. I was Ra always called Don the questioner, Ra called me the instrument, and he called Jim the scribe. And that was because Jim always transcribed the sessions from tape. And I think it takes a group to pull in a contact. So even though...
Of that caliber.
Yeah, of any caliber.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I was the channel, the responses that I got from the Ra group were those responses because of Jim, Don, and me. And I think one of the greatest mistakes that that mediums make if they're trying to bring in what I call an outer contact or an extraterrestrial contact is to work alone or with just one person, because it takes 3 people to universalize the information. So if you have one person channeling, it will be completely biased according to what one entity is trying to explain to you. If you have 2 people receiving information, the information will be biased according to the dynamic between the 2 of you. However, if you add that 3rd person, you universalize the material. It can't be simply the dynamic of person 1, person 2, and person 3. It will be the dynamic of the universal human. So, not only for battery power, which is what
your
people
battery
in a group,
power,
are for, but for the integrity of the material, it's best to have at least 3. Not necessarily more than 3, but at least 3 people in the group to universalize the material. It's not necessary if you're channeling your inner guide. You can do that all by yourself because it's biased in the first place. But this particular type of channel is trying very hard to be unbiased and to give information in emotionally neutral words and in the most universal vocabulary that can be found. So one wonderful gift of the material is that it meets you where you are. It isn't a material that will only work for you if you're a Christian, or if you're not a Christian, or if you're a Buddhist, or if you are a follower of Islam. It will work for you if you're seeking answers to the great universal questions of life. And they say themselves that what they're offering isn't anything new. There's nothing new under the sun. They are offering the information in a certain pattern or shape that hopefully maximizes its use to the seeker who wants to know the truth. And I think it's remarkable that Don had the training that he did. He was trained as a scientist, he was trained as a mechanical engineer and physicist, and he taught physics and mechanical engineering. His mind worked in a certain way. Also, since 1955, this was 1981, 25 years later, he was working on his own answers. You know, what is the paranormal? Is there life after death? Is reincarnation right? What about ghosts? What about UFOs? He searched diligently and deeply for years and years and years before he came on this entity Ra. So when he asked the questions, he asked them in a way that is distinctly more modern, shall we say, than most people who have the background that I do, arts and liberal arts, fine arts, philosophy, literature. He was coming from a very practical, down-to-earth point, but at the same time he had a great breadth of awareness, lots of awareness of the work of a large number of people who were doing research in this same fringe area. And there have been very good scientists that have done work in this area over the years, and he was familiar with all of them. So he didn't start from zero. He started from a very informed point of view. And then another thing that was remarkable about the contact was that if you listen to one of the CDs that have the Law of One audio on it from our site, you can hear Ra speaking like this with no break between sentences or words or ideas. And
so how do you see this Law of One being a tool of the hands of the masters of the world to gain a good life, to gain the freedom that we all long for?
Well, I think that people...
Is it on one-on-one basis? Can you see it being used in Africa? Or how, do you have any visions about that?
Well, my vision for the Law of One is simply to make it available. I think that the material speaks for itself, and I don't feel that anybody has to be saved. I think that people wake up according to their own alarm clock, not mine, and not anybody else's. And I think that if you hassle somebody before he's ready to wake up, he's just going to grumble and turn over and go back to sleep. So I do see myself as sort of a snooze alarm, where, you know, let me have your ear for a few minutes, and I'll talk to you about the Law of One, and then you can roll over and go back to sleep. But I don't do it aggressively. People generally come across the Law of One in magical ways. It falls on them in a bookstore, or they find it in a bookstore checkout line, and nobody in the store has ever had it on their inventory, but they say, well, here it is, we'll sell it anyway. And this happens over and over again. Actually, it falls on people a lot.
Could you shortly explain the difference between a dimension and a density?
Well, Ra uses both terms interchangeably, but in point of fact, dimension indicates how many aspects there are. For instance, in a third density, you've got 3 dimensions of space. You have this dimension, and that dimension. Length, width, and breadth, plus 1 dimension of time. In fourth density, you have 6 dimensions. You have 3 dimensions of space and 3 dimensions of time. So there's quite a bit more flexibility and quite a bit more ability to manipulate the physical world. And yes, you do still have a physical body in fourth density according to the Confederation, but you are able to do much more with it, and it's not a chemical distillery anymore. So you don't have to eat and excrete, and it's not quite as messy a business to live, which would be nice. But to get back, let me finish about third and fourth density. Whereas a density is how dense the light is with information, basically. So third density light, fourth density light are not the same.
So that's why the choices is greater in the fourth than in the third, because the light is denser with information.
Right. And as people walk these steps of light, if they stop where they're comfortable, and where they're comfortable is still in third density, then they just go for another master cycle of third density on another planet, because this planet is going to become fourth density positive, according to the Confederation. If you've made it past for third density, fourth density declivity, and you're on the steps of light in fourth density, then you've graduated. And I think a lot of the wanderers that are here now will actually just keep walking those steps of light right back to their home density. I think that's very possible. Although a lot of wanderers have forgotten who they are and why
Carla,
they're here.
can you please say more, elaborate a little more about the wanderers? I think that most of the people who will watch this will be wanderers.
Oh, I think so too. There are huge numbers of them. The Reuckert, for instance, said that and this was 30 years ago, said they spoke to something like 63 million people. And that means that number of people then were compatible with the vibrations of the Reuckert. I imagine that number is hugely magnified now, because we've had 2 more waves of wanderers since then. I was hypnotized at one point in Don's research in 1975, and I went back to another planet. So I kind of remember it from the inside out. And we had a group of people. Hello, Piggy. Need to put you down, sweetie. We had a group of people that decided that we wanted to come to Earth and serve. And so we came as a group. And I think there are lots of groups of wanderers like that. And when we came here, of course, we entered into incarnation and became Earth natives. A lot of wanderers don't want to be Earth natives, but we are. We are in the same bodies. We have the same rules to follow as far as being able to graduate. If we don't bother to wake up and start polarizing toward service to others, we will not be able to go back to our home density. We will be stuck in third density for the next master cycle. So a shout out to everybody out there. If you think you don't belong here, if you think you came from elsewhere, if you don't think your parents are your real parents, all things like that, enter into the realization that you're a wanderer, and that's all very fine and good. But remember, a wanderer has responsibilities, what Rob would call honor duties. It is an honor to serve the people of Earth. It is an honor to be a person of Earth and to bring through those half-remembered truths that are part of our basic nature, so that we lighten the consciousness of planet Earth, not so much by what we do as by what we are. I am a wanderer myself, and I honestly feel that as many compliments as I've gotten through the years, and thanks from people for being part of the creation of the Law of One, my channeling is not my greatest gift. I don't believe so. I believe that the greatest gift I can offer is me being me and loving. And loving, I won't just say loving, because one thing that people so often forget is service to others is not just a matter of giving love. It's a matter of being able to receive love from other people without going, oh, no, let me serve you. No, it's a reciprocal thing. Love is reflected in love. And when you begin accepting love offerings as well as offering yourself in love to others, then something glorious happens, as you well know, because we've done that back and forth through the years.
Now it seems life becoming quickly very serious for everyone as we approach 2012. Can you say something about that? Do you have any?
Well, Ra never would talk much about 2012 except to say that it was the shift of the ages. It was the shift from third density light to fourth density light. And fourth density light is dying on this planet already. It's very difficult for people that have not awakened now to awaken unless they have a little bit of help, they have a little bit of inspiration. Because the third density light is waning, and fourth density light, you see, has so much more information. So what really happens for fourth density light, which is impinging on third density existence here, is that we are suddenly being forced, and I mean forced, to look at every bit of unintegrated selfhood that we have. If there's a shadow side to us at all, it's going to come up and hit us upside the head, and we're going to have to pay attention to it. We're going to have to lay our ghosts. We're going to have to love our shadow side. And this was not true with third density light. You could loaf along and just say, well, I'll get that in the next incarnation. Fourth density light doesn't accept that level of truth. So people are finding it harder and harder to advance, simply because there's suddenly a huge headwind of things hitting them that they have to take into consideration if they're going to move on. It's still possible. It's just harder than it used to be. And after 2012, I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying that it's going to be a miracle. Now, fortunately, I think just about everybody that's been born lately, and that's since 77, say, is a wanderer from fourth density that has come back to this density after graduating from this planet. They get into fourth density, they consult with their guidance system, and they're going, what should I do? What should I do? And then, their hearts are tugged towards their previous home that's still in bad shape, that, as Jesus said, the fields are white with harvest, but where are the harvesters? So I think they want to come back and serve to lighten the planet. And a lot of them that have graduated have some adhering karma from before they came to planet Earth, when they were part of a planet that destroyed its atmosphere or destroyed the whole planet, like Maldek.
And Mars?
So, Mars is one that most of the people here on Earth, I think the majority, have Martian antecedents. There are very few people that are native to this planet, and they're great apes, So, and then you have those from Maldek, as it's called, which now is the asteroid belt, or part of it, and they destroyed the planet completely. So I think these indigo children, or this third wave of wanderers that we have now, are wired, both third and fourth density wiring. So they are far more able to use fourth density light. And I think that they are still going to be able to work with third density after 2012. And people say, well, there won't be a third density after 2012. Well, au contraire, there will be, as far as I'm concerned, because it's not one planet and it shifts from this density to that density. It's one planet with all the densities in potentiation, and some of them activated. Right now we have first density, that's the density of minerals and the wind and the water and so forth. We have second density, which is the density of animals and plants, which are aware, but they are not self-aware or self-conscious. Then we have the third density, which is activated. And third density is the density of humans, self-aware, conscious beings that are driven by their very nature to realize that they are ethically motivated beings who wish to follow the dictates of their ethics.
When you say it's not activated, does that mean it's not activated in most of us? Is that what you mean, or are you
That's right. It could be activated in those who do enough seeking and who begin to activate, say, their green ray body. We are now in yellow ray bodies. The third density. Yeah. The fourth ray is the heart chakra, and that's the density of love and understanding. So it's entirely possible, if you do enough work with the open heart, to activate that density within yourself, so that you personally have access to fourth density. And that is what I hope to do in my life, is to live as if I were in fourth density. It's really a time when people are waking up globally, not just in one country or another, but all over the globe. So I think that the picture, as far as what's actually happening as we enter the harvest period, is that the harvest is growing by leaps and bounds. People are waking up. People are making their choice of positive polarity and saying, yes, I want to pay it forward. I want to serve. And it's a very exciting time to be alive, as far as I'm concerned. I know that it will be a very difficult and chaotic time. It's not just my own instincts that tell me this. There are all kinds of well-founded worldviews that we have, like the Native Americans, the Mayans, and so forth, that tell us this is a time of chaos. The Pyramid Inch, which has been thoroughly discredited by those who don't like the Pyramid Inch, also suggests there's a time of no time. There's a chaotic time in between 2012 and about 2039. So we can expect unusual weather experiences, economic disasters. Whatever is going to happen, it will not destroy the earth, but it will make things uncomfortable for people. Inconvenient was the word that Ra used. He said the inconveniences have begun. Now, Ra wouldn't talk about 2012 much, except to say that we do not quibble with the circumstances that bring about harvest. In other words, they're here to help with the harvest. They're not here to help with the chaos. So, the great thing for everyone to do as 2012 looms is to get on the path of service to others and then settle down, give it the light touch, and nurture and cherish and love the things around you, and find ways to cooperate with this commotion and this chaos that's occurring. So I think that as we cooperate with the forces that are bringing about the harvest in 2012 and the dawn of a new day, I think that we will live until we die, and meanwhile we can be a tremendous source of love and light for those around us here on planet Earth.
Thank you very much, Carla.